Hello, Mom. Good afternoon. My name is Belandina Rangabella. Now, I want to present my presentation about a book of review. The title of book, The Gift of Being Yourself by David G. Benner. In Christian circles, introduction. In Christian circles, the doctrine of knowing God is widely discussed, but Christians throughout the age have also agreed that there can be no deep knowledge of God without a deep knowledge of oneself. Knowing your true self is inextricably linked with Rec- recognizing God's special purpose for you. Paradoxically, the more you become like Christ, the more you become who you are really are. In an in-depth exploration of Christian identity, psychologies, and spiritual growth, David Jebener explained the spiritual of self discovery. He will reveal your false self, which you might have hidden to unique uniqueness in Christ, freeing your freeing you from illusions about yourself. Benner saw that self-understanding leads to the fulfillment of your God-given healing and ultimate purpose. Trust me, you don't have to try to be someone you're not, but you will deepen your experience of God by discovering the gift of being who you are. There are six important aspects in the book. Tra- Number one, transforming knowledge of self and good. Number two, knowing God. Number three, the first step towards self awareness. Number four, knowing God, the first step towards self awareness. Number five, know your fake self. Number six, be yourself. Be your true self. Transforming transforming knowledge of self and good. Knowledge of good I'm sorry, transforming knowledge of self and God. Knowledge of God's self has an important role in Christians' spirituality. The understanding of the independence between knowing oneself and God has a permanent place of honor in Christians' theology. No deep knowledge of God can take place without self knowledge and vice versa. Knowing God. Physical God is a mystery, but at the same time, a person who is easy to know and know. Our knowledge and knowledge of God occur in sovereign, and God Himself reveals Himself to man. So, even if humans can know God, it is because God Himself introduced Himself to humans. It is important for man to know God from his finite mind, because God is infinite compared to human reason, which is very limited. Knowing God means understanding God based on personal experience. Know him as a child recognize, understanding, and understands his parents. We know God by diligently reading his word and always praying, and taking a place to always take shelter. The first, number two, the first step towards self awareness. One, know yourself as a loved one. Two, get to know the neglected parts of yourself. 3. From self to God. 4. Self acceptance and self knowledge. Number Point 3. Knowing God, the first step towards self awareness. 1. Knowing yourself as a sinner. Knowing yourself as a sinner self identification can only occur after we are sure that we are very loved for who we are. The fact that God loves and know that God loves and know us as sinners enables us to know and love ourselves as sinners. 2. Reflection in prayer. Reflection in prayer to identify everything one does personally, to attend silence, promises to God and oneself to set aside quiet time with God within oneself. Start with a simple prayer to ask God to help you personally to be calm. Know your fake self. Point 1. Authenticity challenge. Human can indeed choose anything freely, but the action does not reflect authenticity. In their freedom, the anti Semites actually reject freedom. They know they will not be able to accept such a heavy burden of responsibility. They are authentic, afraid to face their own human condition. Overcoming nudity. 3. Recognize the fake self. It means that we are aware of ourselves, that we don't have to always live in falsehood and not be ourselves. 4. The fine war against the false self. If Jesus asked Christian belief was fully human and fully meaning that he was at war with the false self. He too was decided by the false ways of discovering who he was and the attachment to his personal style. In his human state, his identity in paternal love is evident in the early days of the baby's consciousness. He had to find himself. Be your true self. The true self is in reality who you are and what you have become. The true self is your whole person as created by God and as saved and redeemed by God. We don't find our true self by looking for it outside of God, but we'll find it if we seek within God. Conclusion. A small opening about knowing God and know yourself. The gift of being yourself penetrates the layer of selfishness and transcends personality and penetrates self imagination to arrive at the core truth of oneself. This is the path of true discovering and accepting a love one like no other as God designed the person. In this book, I encourage the reader to stop and examine the implication for themselves. Okay, mom, that's all my presentation. Thank you.